All right. Welcome to the 15th lesson video during this little coronacation. And what you heard was the song Elevate by Big Time Rush, which comes from the recommended movie of the week, Big Time Movie. Very good movie. If you know Big Time Rush and you know their series, it's done with Nickelodeon, as you can see down below. Very good TV series, very funny. It's basically just a little band. They're a boy band, and they have to save the world. And you don't need to know anything about Big Time Rush before the movie. You'll understand it as you go along. But they do have a series, and if you want, you can watch Big Time Rush. It's just Big Time. Big Time Rush. It's an R, sorry. But Big Time Rush, that's their that's their little TV show that they had going on a couple years back. Sadly, it had to come to an end. All TV shows do. But yeah. So let's get started with our lesson. And what we're mainly focusing on today is creating rectangles with squares. This is actually going to be a fairly simple, and as you can tell from the worksheets and games, it's not a lot, because this is a fairly simple lesson. I might only be talking for maybe another 3 minutes, so it's fairly simple. And the only reason why I'm putting out this lesson is because we're going to be talking about a very special topic called area. And we're going to be jumping into that. So I'm not going to talk too much about area, but if you understand this concept and you understand that you can divide it, you can do what you can do. I don't want to be giving off concepts and terms from this because you might not understand it yet, but if you understand what you have to understand from this topic, from this lesson video, it'll be an easier transition into area, I think. So this lesson mainly stems from the topic of composition. I never did a lesson on this. I might do it in the future after I'm done with area. But composition is basically the formation of shapes. The formation of a shape. Of a shape from smaller ones. Now, this is not technically the definition of the word composition. Composition means to make something, to compose. Like, it also means to make up something, but just in technical terms, in the terms that we need to understand it for today, because we're going to be talking about shapes. With composition, when we talk about composition, we are referring to the formation of a shape from smaller ones. And when I say this, I mean we can create a square if you watch the partitioning videos or the symmetry videos, we cut a shape in half. We just made two triangles. So these, wow, that was poorly drawn. Sorry about that. Oh, I know it's gonna kill some of you to see this little dot on the screen, so I'm trying to get that out for some of you who are like that. And it's not working. Okay, there we go. Hallelujah. So that square can be made up from smaller triangles. If you just turn this triangle, if you make this side flip on to that side, you get this whole square. And that's mainly the idea. But if you need, like, I know that was a little hard to understand, but if you need like a little demonstration, this is a good like idea and demonstration of it. Like, we have this big shape, triangle, and we can make it up through using smaller shapes and combining all of them to make the big triangle. So as you can see, we have a rhombus, quadrilateral, almost like a square. Don't know if you know that yet. Triangle, trapezoid, another trapezoid, triangle. You get the gist of it. So it's just made of little 2D shapes to make a bigger one. So this is what it's supposed to look like, and it can be made up with smaller shapes. Like if I cut this, and I did this, I'm not the greatest artist, and then it did this, that, you basically get the idea that little shapes make up the big one. So, why am I telling you this? Well, a rectangle as our topic said, we're going to be talking about rectangles and squares. A rectangle can be made up of squares. So this rectangle, if we made all the squares equal, this rectangle right here can be made up 12 little squares. And that is all you need to understand. If I said make a rectangle, that's the abbreviation for rectangle. It's supposed to be, sorry, it's supposed to be a little period. And if I set it to be let's go with 2 squares wide, 3 squares long. Now I would draw my width would be 2 squares. So now we know it's 2 squares wide. We counted 2. But then we got to count 3 squares long. So we got to add squares. And then we got to just fill up the emptiness. So when you're talking about width, it depends what you're talking about. Some people get confused with width and length. But it doesn't matter because you could always just, I could always just rotate it. Sorry, but I could always just rotate the square and make it like this. I could always make it like that and rotate it. Oh, whoopsies. Nope. Scratch what I said. You could always rotate it and make it look like this. So when you're talking about length and width, it's not necessarily this is what you have to do in order to make it look good. But we said we create rectangles using squares, and that's what we're going to do. They might give us, say, make it 1 square wide, 6 squares long. So when we know, we draw one square on the top, and that has to be 6 squares long. 3, 4, 5, I'm gonna switch. So make sure that when you draw these, all the squares are the same size. Obviously, I didn't do that here. My bad on my part, ran out of space a little bit. So basically, when they tell you to draw a rectangle, you just gotta draw it using what they want you to know. And as you can see, this rectangle, I just drew a rectangle and filled it with squares that looked kind of the same. It has 9 squares that make up for it. Just understand that concept. Do the worksheets, play the games, and you're going to understand that you can make rectangles. One of the games is just a little fun game that you can play, and you have to make up squares, and whoever has the most squares wins the game. But it's just going through the concept of, if you understand that a rectangle can be made up from squares of equal sizes. The squares have to be equal sizes. That's the most important thing that I have to stress. The squares have to be equal that make up the rectangle. If you understand that, if you understand how to make the rectangle, try that worksheet where you have to make the rectangle. They do like this little 2 wide, 3 long instructions. If you understand that, try the worksheet where it says, where they give you a rectangle and they say how many squares could it have. Figure it out. If you understand those two, then it will be a very, very, very easy transition into the topic of area. That's why I'm making this video for second graders, because this can be a first grade concept or under. It's just the fact that it's a transition into a second grade topic of area that makes it important for you second graders to watch, because it's an introduction video and it's an easy concept, and if you understand this concept, then you'll have an easy time with area, which is a little harder concept to grasp. So if you grasp and understand the easier one, then it might be easier to understand the little harder topic. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this little video here. Stay safe, stay cool, stay learning. Bye-bye.